Parts of southern Europe are suffering from the hottest sustained heat wave for more than a decade. Temperatures have reached 45 degrees Celsius in some parts of Italy and the Balkans. Let's speak now to Josephine McKenna, who's a freelance journalist based in Rome. Ordinarily, Josephine, we ought to envy you, but how unbearable is it?
It's very, very hot here. I've been here for 10 years and this is the worst summer I've actually lived through. There seems actually no relief because the temperatures are so intense and at night really don't calm down at all. So in a city like Rome where you don't get much of a breeze, it's really quite oppressive. And you can see that on the streets. Tourists are walking around looking exhausted. They're clamouring for a piece of shade on the street. The Civil Protection Authority has distributed 12,000 bottles of water, so people here are really feeling the pinch.
Rome has a lot of fountains, though. They must be very tempting.
They are, and we've had that issue come up in the past few months. In fact, there are heavy fines for tourists and others who decide to dip their toe or their body into a fountain. We haven't seen too many fines being issued, but we have seen some tourists. A young boy jumped into the Trevi fountain, I think, in the last day or two. This is a big issue for Italy, and the city really does want to keep people out of the fountains, but it's very difficult, as you can imagine, when these temperatures are up around 40 degrees.
Very serious implications, though, too, of course, in terms of the public health problem that it poses for people who just can't cope in this heat.
Yes, we've seen hospital admissions rise by 15%. There's a great deal of concern about the elderly, particularly the concern about dehydration. The City of Rome has added some extra services to take care of the elderly and make sure that there are centres for certain elderly people to go to make sure that they're protected from the heat and have some kind of refreshments. But the cities that are affected, we're seeing 26 cities on a red alert, and the government is looking at issuing a state of emergency in 11 regions. So that gives you some indication of how widespread this drought really is.
Yes, and the tinder dry conditions, of course, propose a fire risk, as we've seen in other parts of Europe. And what's the impact on farming?
Well, we have seen fires across the country. One woman, in fact, died from a wildfire that was sparked on her farm in Abruzzo. But more broadly than that, there is a great deal of concern about agriculture. Calderetti, the largest agricultural organisation, has said that this is going to cost billions of euros. The wine harvest has already begun extremely early in both Piedmont in the north and Sicily in the south. These temperatures are really quite unheard of. It's also going to have an impact on the olive harvest. That's expected to fall by 50%, and also an impact on cheese production as sheep, for example, rely on water supplies that have now been diminished. So some widespread damage there in the agricultural sector, and the government will be calling on a national security fund, a national solidarity fund that's been set up for agriculture that includes contributions from the European Union to aid farmers in the coming months.
Let's hope it breaks for you fairly soon. Josephine McKenna, freelance journalist in Rome, thank you.